please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our March board meeting, and we're going to go right into our budget workshop number 2. So we're going to start off with the workshop led by Jason Van Posten. Mr. Van Posten.
Good evening, everybody. All right, so we are live streaming again. This is our second budget workshop. Welcome Cynthia Wombold from CBO, who will be helping with any questions we have. And she has been instrumental in help developing this. So again, welcome and thank you, Cynthia. I know we do have some folks who are watching on the live stream, so welcome everyone. We did have, we made a copy of this recording and the presentation. It's on the website under district budget. So anyone who wants to go back and watch and or look at the materials, they're there. This will be uploaded as well by Monday, hopefully tomorrow. All right, well, let's get started. So again, this is our second workshop. It's first draft of our preliminary of our 25-26 budget. We do have some recommendations for budget enhancements, which we'll spend some time on. And just a reminder that on the 16th, which is 6 weeks from now, we will be adopting a formal spending plan. That's what you'll be approving. And then obviously from there, we'll have our hearing and then the budget vote. So tonight will hopefully be very informative and ask as many questions as you want or have, and hopefully we can answer them or find answers by the 16th. Okay, so our objectives, again, simple: review the budget. So you're getting your first chance to see what we're looking at for 25-26. We're going to discuss and deep dive into some variables that are impacting not only this budget, but future budgets. And we want to be cognizant of that. And then we want to go through the budget enhancements. This is just a reminder. We've done this now 10 plus years. We have these principles that we build our budget off of. I won't belabor them, but obviously we want to make sure we're delivering that premier educational experience that the community can afford and will support. We want to provide a well-rounded program, and then we want to make sure that we keep the district's health and sustainability at the forefront. So this is the budget process that we utilize, or these are the principles we've utilized. All right, so let's just jump right into the variables that are impacting this budget. And again, I have information from last meeting that I'll show just to kind of help illustrate. But number one, when we looked at the long-range projections last meeting, we saw that deficits began in 27-28, and they're quite small. It's 28-29 where it jumps to about $3 million that we really need to be paying attention to. And so we have 3 budgets to really keep that in the forefront so that it doesn't get to $3 million in 28-29. Now, as Cynthia will tell you, and Jeff, and we've all been around this long enough, the variables you build your current budget off change. And so what looks awful in 4 years could change. It could get worse quicker, or it could smooth out, and because of decisions we make now and in future years, go away. So it's just always important to keep that long-range projection in our minds, and we did see that is cycling back. Our enrollment is stable, and I mention this because 10 years ago we were the 5th largest district in Broome-Tauga-Boces, and about 8 years ago we became the 4th largest and have stayed there. And so as other districts are losing enrollment, we are not. Doesn't mean we're growing exponentially, but we are not losing students. So that's a great acknowledgement of people wanting to come here and live here, but where other districts are losing enrollment, and allows them to naturally decrease staffing and some of their program responsibilities, we do not have that. So while we're trying to maintain and grow, our stable enrollment is keeping that as a fixed cost, so to speak, if that makes sense. But again, we want to have people living here and wanting to be here, so we take that as a positive. Our reserves are funded. You've seen that. We do need to create a new capital reserve. There is a resolution tonight that we have to approve so that it can go out to the voters. And that will be for 10 years, $10 million. That language was used back in 2016, and our 2016 is aging out, so we need to prove that. But our reserves are in good shape. We are thinking and considering a strategic cost-saving model, Marathon Health. We've spent quite a bit of time now investigating that. That is one of the last strategic model changes we can make that we've seen, and I know we're going to talk about that tonight and then in the future. That is something we're looking at to save some money on our health insurance. And then the last two, I think it's pretty clear. Federal government, the Department of Education, you've heard, and the uncertainty there. We're not significantly impacted by federal funding. It's certainly, we have federal funding we receive, but it's the other impacts of that, from programs to requirements to things that really we don't know. So from a funding standpoint, that is not a third rail. The third rail is New York State. And so as you see in our budget, we are heavily reliant on New York State. And so if the state funding changes, that's going to have a significant impact. So not a doom and gloom or a scare. It's just you have to always be looking forward and not get too comfortable with what things look like in the present day, because things can change. That's in a nutshell. There you go. That's the life we're living with now in New York State. All right, so just to recap, this was the information I was sharing. Our current budget, 24-25, is performing well. Angela reviewed that with you. We're looking at a surplus for this year, and then the next two budget cycles. So that's a great thing to have. The blue box, that's our current budget that we are planning for. And then you can see in 27, 28, and 28, 29 where that deficit starts. So it's really 28, 29 that's going to stay in our sight. And you've seen this already. I just wanted to make sure that these were the variables that went into that for revenue, and then the variables for expenditures. So just a quick review of our district enrollment. This is a snapshot from the 25th of February. Again, while not growing particularly in any area, we are staying relatively flat with a very slight change over 4 years, 5 years. So, and that's built on students in our buildings today. So it's not built on projected enrollment. It's built on averages based on the number of students over time that are currently in the district. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that, and we believe the economy, the local economy, there are some potential for some growth areas. We know that Maine-Endwell is a sought-after school district. So if there is growth in the region economically, we would anticipate that our enrollment would at the least stay stable, but it could potentially grow too. And again, when you look out over the next few years, that's what it looks like. That's not a bad visual given upstate New York's 10, 15-year statistics on enrollment. Okay, and then as we talked about, this is our fund balance. As you can see, it's growing from year to year, or it's projected to grow from year to year. Again, that's a positive sign, and we went through that last board meeting. And same thing, reserves are in good shape. And if anyone wants to go back and see what our reserves looked like 7 years ago, 5 years ago, you would be shocked. So having some reserves is a nice, I don't want to say luxury, it's a nice position to be in, and we're very fortunate. Okay, so that's the current state. So here is the current draft budget for 25-26. And again, I know if it's hard to see that, because I try to put everything. So that's expenditures, revenue, and then surplus deficit, and then I'll break it out. Budget to budget, from 72 to 76, 4.53% increase. And we'll explain where a sizable amount of that is coming from. Just want to give you a second to look at that. And one of the first items we wanted to pause and have a conversation, we talked about this for several months. So when we received our state aid for the 4 classroom addition to Maine Memorial, the state informed us that they were only going to aid 1.5 of the 4 classrooms, not all 4. Homer Brink, where we put an addition on in 2019, all 4 classrooms were aided. So we felt very confident that these 4 classrooms at Maine Memorial, which are slated to start construction this summer, were going to be fully aided. If you recall, they were not. We identified $1.8 million in less building aid. So several months ago, we talked about the options we have. We can cut scope, which is reduce the amount of work we do. We can go out to the taxpayers and ask for more tax dollars, more money. We can use our capital reserve funds, which we have, and it requires voter authorization. Or we can take surplus funds, so that surplus that we're projecting this year, we can simply add that as a line item for the budget and use the $1.8 million to cover that way. So those were the options, and this is the option we are recommending for a couple reasons. I put some explanation up there, but let me pause there. And I know Cynthia and Jeff, we've been talking about this. This is really a decision that we need to make here.
Is that the 1.8 transfers?
Yes.
There?
Yes,
Yep.
that blue star is that line item. And that explanation we will highlight in the budget newsletter, and we're going to highlight that so that people understand what it is.
Yeah, I think you build it into net of the surplus. And then if there is unforeseen stuff, then you hit the reserve, right? That's how I would do it.
Well, plus the reserves for the next capital project too, so.
Right, so, since we have enough on that surplus side.
So the thing that Cynthia and I talked, I like having it in here because it keeps our expenditures a lot more level year to year to year versus a here to here to there. And then people say, why is it going up so much? Yeah, you know. And the reality is it's going down because debt service and building aid are both dropping. That's it. But I like it. And we talked to, I mean, you guys do also have the option of simply just doing the resolution to move the money without putting it in the budget. I don't like the transparency of that. I'd rather go out and tell people why we had to do it. Like Jason just said, it's a simple explanation. You know, we don't know what we're going to get in aid until we actually put the project to SED. We can project all we want and think what we want, but we're still shocked we didn't get the aid, but it is what it is.
That makes sense to me.
Yep, me too.
So we'll have to put in the budget newsletter where we usually have the 100K in the past 650K projects. We just have to put it in there, explain it, and we'll probably have another, small couple paragraphs to just highlight what Jason just said. Here's why we're doing this. So
We'll frame it out. Like I said, we'll include Homer Brink, and so on, so people understand. But we did feel like that was the most transparent way of doing it. And we're fortunate, we have money in the budget to do that.
Right.
So, okay. All right. So moving forward, that's how we're going to address that capital project deficit of state aid. Okay.
Great.
All right. So then I take this, and we've done this several years, but just a reminder, we take that and we'll break that out into parts and just review them. So if you have specific questions, that's how we'll proceed. All right, so there's our expenditures. Again, it's just taking that top half of that first slide you saw and breaking it out. You see that reduction in debt service like Jeff just mentioned. That will resume next year, we're thinking, right, as the 22 project ramps up. So we have like a little lull year and then it's going to go back. And obviously it's building aid corresponds with that. But you see that massive transfer, that's the part we want to explain because we anticipate people asking a lot of questions about that. Okay, so for salaries, and this is one of those educational pieces for people. We are a people business. Our people provide the services that go into delivering that education. It's no surprise that of a $76 million budget, $28 million of it goes just to salaries, not benefits, just salaries. So you can see the increases there. We're negotiating contracts, you're aware. And obviously, we've hired people over the last couple of years, so some of those increases are very explainable.
Why no summer work?
Pardon?
It says salaries for summer work, it's zeroed out.
You know, there really is salaries for summer work. They're into the professional salary line.
Okay.
And that
okay.
line just carried, and we probably just forgot to hide it.
Yeah, I'll hide it.
So
It doesn't look like that, yeah.
so we're not, we're just
Right, we're
not.
not doing anything, Lynn.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing for me.
Head counts by each of those columns.
Summers.
Yeah, 24 to 25, 25 to 26.
Number of teachers?
Yeah.
Or staff?
Yeah, that fill out each of like the 4.5 million.
Yeah.
What was it in 24, 25 number head count, 25, 26 to see if there is like, okay, we're adding one, minus one. You know, or in non-instructor salaries going up 768,000.
Yep.
What was the number of head count from here to here?
I do that in that district dashboard, but I can see about adding that, Mike. That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it'd be easier to put a number with a dollar amount.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, total employee, head count, total employee.
We're 501. Yeah. Okay. Equipment, slight decrease. And we've done a good job. We're not feeling like that's an impact negatively. We've budgeted quite a bit in equipment over the last several years, and we're in pretty good shape. Anything to add there?
No, we did all the lockdown systems are all taken care of, so yeah, it's just like decrease.
Contractual is a big hodgepodge of items. The biggest one being BOCES, as you know. And BOCES is one of those where it's a running target. You know, we budget what we think we're going to use, and if we over budget, we get it back in refunds. If we don't, then obviously we need to allocate more funds. So we try to be conservative with BOCES, and that's why that number is as high as it is.
That credit built into the 24 number. I mean, I think we get a credit, we're projecting a credit, right? We'll see.
Oh, a refund?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Refund.
Yep. Credit refund, yep.
It's a line
That's the
item in the
revenue.
revenue side.
To the revenue side.
Oh, okay.
Question?
$250,000 in fuel. You know,
it's
that's-
crazy. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Debt and debt payment or interest. And again, this is the drop in debt service that we were planning on that will likely smooth back out next year. So we'll explain that in case people ask. That's a typical question people will have. So we'll make sure that we put a note in there. A little more detail. And then benefits, employee benefits, payroll taxes.
Unemployment insurance has gone down, yeah?
How many claims, pay as we go.
And the district has a large credit with the state. So
COVID.
we've been working that off, so there was no need to actually budget as much in that line.
Any questions there? And then this is the item that has changed the most, and like I said, we'll make sure to explain that. Okay. So our projected revenue, again, everything's built off of the money you have. Tax levy right now has been filed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. 2.09. And Karina, we put in everyone's folder. Cynthia shared with us today the regional tax levy.
It's behind
Okay.
your judges.
I took the school names off. It's just our name and then letter. But I just wanted to show you where our 2.09 falls within the region. We're in the lower end. There's some districts that have higher.
You can realize it. I know you can do that.
So because the formula is based on the towns and municipalities in which you live in, growth factors, that's why ours at 2.09. No, we're not, that's not high in comparison to the region. I guess I wanted to just accentuate
That's
that.
helpful.
Because people ask, so
Yeah.
what is that in relation to anyone else? Well, that's what it is in relation to the rest of our growth
That's good
factors.
information.
Yeah, it's just something to look at. Appropriated fund balance, and then the special projects, and then the special transfer, those next three lines, that's all funds that we currently have that we're applying and utilizing to the revenue side. The other revenue will break out, that's a lot of small items. BOCES refunds would be part of that, you'll see. And then the state aid, and state aid is, again, a significant portion of what we build our budget off of. It is the most significant portion. So anytime you have that much reliance on state aid, that first slide regarding the variables of the state, we are reliant on the state's stability. And if things change, then that's going to impact. So again, just a reminder.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Does the federal, I'm trying to get to figure out how much of our aid is federal aid. And does it go federal to state and then from the state to us?
In the general fund budget, there's only a tiny portion of your budget that is federal, and that's Medicaid. There's a little bit of Medicaid.
So that's,
However, some of your grants, your majority of your grants are federally funded.
Title
Title I,
UPK.
611, 619.
UPK.
Yeah.
It is now.
Yeah.
Used to be a state program, now it's shifted to federal. So maybe 2.5 million of grant money, I would say, guesstimating would be federal.
And then the bigger concern on the federal side, but I don't think it's anything to be, well, who knows? We just don't know. But is what Mr. Van Fossen referred to earlier, is how much of the state funding comes from the feds.
And
And
then,
then they have to cut because they're not.
Exactly. So we don't know.
They don't know.
So
Yeah, he loves to
do we know how much of the state aid is federal aid? No.
Because they get it and then they decide.
They get to do what they want with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, you have to spend it.
Historically, right.
You don't have to spend it at,
I understand.
yeah, it's like operating it for us, we can choose what to parse it out to, that's all they do with it.
But you could look historically to get a handle on it. No?
No idea.
It's peaks and valleys, okay.
We don't even know.
It's just not, they don't
It's
share.
not known to us. The
Not
state doesn't say
information
you're
that's
getting this in
shared.
foundation aid, and oh, by the way, 1 million of that is from the federal government. It's, here's your foundation aid. If the state gets $50 billion, whatever they get from the federal government, we have no idea. What,
They spend it.
parse that out how they want.
Gotcha.
Roads and
Right.
schools, universities,
So there's no
Medicare,
consistency.
we have no idea.
Gotcha.
By New York, New York, it's more for education.
And that's why that's why our lobbyists go to the state to say, you got this money, here's what we need, other than your sales tax revenue, your income tax revenues, all your other revenues. They have their pot of money and they divvy it up as they see fit.
Thank you.
And then the meal reimbursement. That's a big chunk. So.
Yeah.
the SROs.
No, that was a federal grant. We're in our last year.
Yeah.
So that
Cover
money is,
25
so we,
budgeted
if
for.
that was to be reduced, we
Yeah.
got it underneath it.
Yeah.
So,
So the big one bit is UPK, and what was the other one you said?
Meals.
the title grants and the special
Title-
education grants.
Title I,
Title
Title and
11,
special,
619,
they're really the big ones.
Got it. Thank you.
IDA grants.
so under other, that's that category of a lot of little items. The largest, you'll note, again, BOCES reimbursements or refunds, and then that prescription drug rebate, which is a nice bonus. And then there's our state aid broken out. Foundation aid is the discretionary. It's not tied to an item that you have to expense. So when you hear expense-driven aids, anything that requires us to spend it in a designated area like hardware, transportation. That is all based off of you have to spend it or you should spend it, as we're always told. So the biggest variable in looking at the long-range projection, we have been very conservative with foundation aid, and we received more foundation aid this year than we anticipated, partly because the foundation aid formula was changed, part of the recommendations of that Rockefeller. And there's other recommendations that have not been necessarily implemented yet and maybe won't. So that will always be difficult to know what that's going to look like. But conservatively, we put in 1% going out. So, you know, trying to be realistic and pragmatic, not 4% every year, and then when it comes in less, saying, oh, geez, you know, what are we going to do now? So that, again, we try to be very conservative. So that 28-29 deficit may not be 2.9 million based on the conservativeness of what we're projecting. But we would rather err on that side than think things are going to be great and then it comes in less. Does that make sense? I mean, that's just a fundamental conservative budgeting principle. So yes, the outer years sometimes look worse, but we just know we've, you know, Cynthia's been around a long time. Jeff, many of you have been around in public education long enough. State finances can change quickly. So, all right, sorry, enough of the doom and gloom. All right, so here's our lens when we make decisions on what we want to add or enhance. We utilize our district goals. These have been in place for multiple years now. And so we are basing decisions off of these goals. And then are drilling in even deeper to these priorities. We are making decisions based off of these items, parts of these items or pieces. Okay, so we're going to start with enrollment, faculty and staff enrollment. We have built into this budget right now 2 faculty positions. One is an elementary teacher. That would be at Maine Memorial. That would allow us to have 4 sections in each grade level at Maine Memorial. So Maine Memorial's enrollment has been fluctuating between a class size. We have a class of 86. We have a class of 75, 72, 70. If you divide that number by 3, which historically we have had 3 sections, that gets you to a class size of 22, 23, 24, 25. At the elementary level, that's tough. In comparison to Homer Brink, because we've been able to add staff there, we have class sizes between 18 and 22. When you go to the early kindergarten and even kindergarten, they're much lower because we've invested a lot of staff there. So this is our, and Bill can tell you, this is the last piece to ensuring that Maine Memorial now has enough staff to handle any fluctuation in enrollment and not have class sizes of 25. And I'll come back, well, I'll show you the data on that just to explain that. So we feel like it's you know, if class size is important, and it has been, and we've tried to make class size to be a big investment, a big importance, this finishes that investment. Now, the language teacher, and we'll break that out too, we have been understaffed in language for probably 5+ years. And it's not for lack of trying to find people, keep people. You know, as well as anybody, we've cycled through quite a few people. And partly the model, the middle school model is tough. And we've had a lot of conversations with the language department, 6 through 7 through 12. And so we felt like we're at a crossroads here. You know, we're making some changes in the middle school with the honors program. And, you know, that's going to take an honors class out of 7th grade. And we said, based on where we are right now with language, we really had 2, and Mark, please feel free to jump in when it's relevant. You know, we want to continue to keep levels 4 and 5 at the high school. That's the highest level for college, for language. Because students that are going into college, level 4 really exempts you. And then level 5 is just that much more of an honors level enrichment course.
Essentially, we ran, one of the problems we're running into, it's a good problem to have, but our language department at the high school is retaining more kids than ever. So more kids are taking Spanish 3, which naturally, if you make the Spanish 3, you want to take 4 and 5 because that gets you to college level. So over the past couple of years, we went from in Spanish 3 having 50, 60 kids to now over 100 kids taking Spanish 3, and that's now trickling up where we need to be able to offer 4 and 5 more sections of the college level. So with our current staffing levels, it now has brought us to a clear decision point. Either with our current amount of staff, you would have to get rid of college and not offer college anymore, or not offer 7th grade. And unless we bring somebody on, and that would allow us to maintain with the increasing enrollment in the language program. So that's kind of the crossroads we're at.
Yeah. And because it's been so difficult over the last 5 years, you know, we've cycled, like I said, we've cycled through many people. We've hired non-certified that were working towards certification just to fill those seats. That we can't build this model and be constantly on edge of whether or not someone's going to, you know, not come back and then have to scramble in August and you know, impact student schedules, which we did this past year, right up until September. So, you know, again, Maine-Endwell, you want to offer as many opportunities and programs as possible. But I think if you look across the region, across the state, this is one particular area that's been difficult in many school districts. You know, well school districts, well-performing school districts. So we're in a tough spot. This is kind of a Hail Mary. And again, budgetarily, and you know, I'm not sitting here saying, don't worry about the deficit, we're just going to keep adding. This is an investment in the program to maintain what we currently have, not to just keep adding more stuff, so to speak. So here's what it looks like, and Mark and Michelle went through this. So if we can hire the full-time load teacher, they will be full-time at the middle school. The split person right now, who is 0.4 high school, 0.6 middle school, will stay at the high school. So that adds 0.6 to the high school. 0.6, 0.2 is a class, 40-week class. So that's 3 more classes that can be offered at the high school, which, as Mark said, allows them to keep the honors level 5, and then
Yeah, the other one there that you see for the past 2-3 years, we've been discussing and have had this idea and developed out this framework for a class. Because in language, the students usually end up taking 4 and 5 their junior year a lot of the time. And for those kids that are interested in language, there's nothing senior year. And our language department's been working on developing what I think will be a really awesome course. It's where they then senior year explore world languages, you know, everything from Italian to German, go through and explore all these. And the idea of it is to end up being a co-taught classroom where different language teachers teach sections of it, and they bring in different guests from different cultures and have them. So they learn all about world cultures, world languages before they exit our school. Be a really cool offering for Maine-Endwell students for sure.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and you don't have to go through level 5 to get into the exploring world language cultures.
You could
It's
just
really
take
an intro.
Do we
So-
offer that right
so-
now?
No, it doesn't exist right now.
It won't for next year, it'll be like the
no, it would for next year if we were to hire this position.
Yeah,
So what kind of
we
language?
would
Already-
next year if we have.
It's really intro level.
We don't have anyone signed up yet.
Really intro
Right.
level German.
Okay, but students would be able to, I mean, because they're already, you know, gonna be meeting with their counselors, making their schedules
Yeah.
for next year, so.
Yeah, they could take this next year if we add this position, they would be able
To
to.
go in and
Yeah.
add it, okay.
And Jason, this 7th, with the ability to keep 7th grade language,
Yeah.
which I definitely think is important, it would still be an every other day course.
Michelle's looking at that. I mean,
I know that's really disruptive for the teacher and the students, but I also understand the schedule's really
yeah,
complicated.
it's not ideal, and the teachers will tell you. However, to not have anything in 7th grade
Oh, that's worse,
is
for sure.
worse.
yeah.
So if we could do it every day, and you know, it'll be based on enrollment and demand, we will. But that would allow us to keep it at least every other day. Yeah.
And if we
This-
go
well-
every day, they're giving up classes because the 7th grade schedule is full. So they
That's what
have
I
to give
mean,
up
yeah.
some of their enrichment classes to go every day. But it's tough teaching it every other day.
Yeah. But what's the New York mandate for language? The New York State, do we have to, like, what do we have to offer in middle school, in 7th and 8th grade?
You
We-
have to offer language,
Yep.
and the students have to pass, not necessarily in middle school, but they have to pass 1 year. It's called the checkpoint A. They have to pass a checkpoint A exam after 1 year. And there's a few instances, special education students that are exempt from it.
Before they go into high school?
Doesn't have to be, but the way we run our program, they have to.
That's what I was just wondering. So we don't, like,
Yeah.
I am for having as much language as possible in the middle school, but I just wanted to know, like, we don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Depending
it's,
on how it's laid out. Now, if we took away 7th grade, they have to pass
8th grade.
the checkpoint A in 8th grade.
So this
Which
is
was
hard
really
for
hard.
Spanish.
Because they, even if we take 7th.
well, ideally, we would love to hire someone who's dual
Like
certified,
current.
but right now it would be Spanish.
Right. But we're okay the faculty wise.
Yeah, I mean, our highest numbers are in Spanish.
Right.
Yeah.
And the problem with Spanish and French too, it's a fickle. If kids want to take French for 2 years and then decide, the next group behind them want to take Spanish, you're constantly floating. And we've got such tight staffing that it just puts pressure. If you look at our language class sizes, they're high.
Yeah.
And we don't broadcast that, but it's real. They're teaching 25, 27 per class. So when you hear people complain around, 18 in a class, don't say that around a language teacher, because if you saw what they were doing, they're high.
And some of our middle school, aren't they teaching both, like a Spanish, or not anymore?
You can teach one out of your certification, right?
Yeah.
We've asked
And
them
we've
to.
asked them to
Yeah.
do that, that's right.
So in 7th, they would still be able to choose Spanish or French. Okay.
Now, if you said, yes, we're good with that, we still have to hire somebody.
Right.
I know,
And that's been a challenge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hard part.
but better to start looking now,
Yeah.
right?
My question is this, there had been conversation about the impact of reading at the middle school, and that was gonna be addressed by Dibbles. And I was just wondering if we have the results of that and the impact of those results, and how will they impact us next year?
Yeah, and Michelle said she would have them. I see she's not here, otherwise I would ask her.
Yeah.
We'll get that information. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
However, with the new contract, we have the ability for existing and current staff to pick up more. So we're waiting, before we came to you with a request, we wanted to see what the need was,
Yeah.
and then utilize existing staff first before coming back and saying, I think we need more. That's the plan. But you're right, we'll get that data.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item, emerging needs. So this item is really just, we're budgeting a pot of money for any need that comes up. Now, it could be a literacy teacher, it could be something else, it could be custodial maintenance. But what we're saying is we want to have a line item that is there for a need that we're working on over the next several weeks. And we hope to identify that before the end of the school year. But we felt that was the most responsible way of saying we're holding on to a chunk just in case. And if we don't, then it ends up going into fund balance. But we wanted to at least identify that. I know we've had some conversations, we've been talking internally around where. We have an audit for custodial maintenance that is going to come and give some recommendations. It might request some additional staff. So we wanted that there. And then the next item, so every year, we have always put out to departments and department heads, some will take you up on that offer. And so the music department has historically always come with requests. Last year they came with a request and we added a position. So Jackie Kovacs reached out to me. I know you've seen that as well. I sat down with her and we sat down and she explained what her request is. And so I was very clear to say, we'll bring it up, we'll discuss it. We didn't budget it. It's not currently budgeted, but we did want to show you that that's been a request. And those specifically are the areas that it would be addressing. Jackie has been, and Robin before her have been very understanding of you don't want to add on one hand and take away, the next. We currently have a music teacher on a preferred eligibility list because they were laid off in 2019. So my fear is always if we're adding more to something that's not a requirement, there's no requirement, then we have to either say, we value this is the right investment, we're going to support it. And when things turn and there comes a time where we have to look, that's not an area we're going to just keep yo-yoing. Put in, take away. So that's the only thing. And Jackie recognized that, and I don't want to speak for her, but she said, well, I certainly wouldn't want us to be in a position where we add something and then take away a couple of years down the road because we can't afford it. So this is something that we still have time to evaluate and determine, but I wanted you to see it. It's not currently in the budget, but if it's something you want to talk about more and you want us to seriously consider, we can.
Can we get a little more information about that, supporting the high school guitar and piano? Because I have heard feedback about those, like, they have to do lessons, they meet with, and the size of those.
So right now,
Yeah.
Lauren McCarthy is
She started last year.
0.4. I think she's 0.4. She teaches 2 classes at, Mark, is she 0.4?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's 0.4 at the high school. This would allow her to stay at the middle school solely. So.
Well, and Jackie's not here, but I did bring that email
Yep.
up. So to your point, having a current 5th grader, I see how huge these lesson groups are in 5th grade, just to the point you made about the high school. So just because I'm seeing it, I certainly see how Mrs. McMullen could use some support when she's trying to teach 12, 10-year-olds the saxophone. I mean, it's real.
Yep.
But I also, and I think I brought this up last year, and again, I know all of it has to be within a sustainable budget. Within our quest to be a premier education and meet needs of our students that other districts are already doing, we don't have 3rd grade or 4th grade instrument lessons. And so I just wanted to open that up as part of the conversation around if we are going to invest more in the program, which I do think could have benefit, how do we think about, do we expand the program down? Or do we add more people to 5th grade? I don't know how to think about it.
Well, if when you look at Jackie's proposal, it's geared 90% towards elementary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would think that if we brought some in, let's say, we bring someone in next year as a 5th grade orchestra teacher, in 2 years, we could expand that position to bring in 4th grade. I mean, can those things kind of happen or no?
I mean, long time ago when we first started and we went, I said back in 2012, 13, 2013, 14, when we were making reductions, we had music programs as early as 3rd grade.
Right, because when we moved here, I definitely know there was 3rd grade music, and then by the time I started at Homer Brink, that was all gone.
Yeah.
So I figured it's reduced.
At its height, how many music teachers do we have? Because over the years, we made cuts, but then when we
Right.
restored it,
I believe we had 12 at one time. Adding these 2 would bring it to 13. Yep.
going way back.
Way back,
There's
I'm
more-
saying.
Is that right?
12 is when I first started, we were at 12. And then when we had people retire and we just didn't fill them.
Well,
And
but
we're
there were
at,
also cuts too.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
if the most we ever had was 12, and then now we have 13, okay?
We have
Let's make
11.
the seat, this would make it 13.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's say we made it 13,
Yeah.
right? Then, I mean, if, I don't really want that to happen again either, where,
Right.
had teachers that then have to cut them because of, some reduction in state aid or whatever.
I also have to say that.
I support this, by the way, I'm a musician, right? So-
Yeah, I'm sure we all would love to do it.
even bringing it to 13 though, that doesn't make us being able to bring the programs to 3rd and 4th grade.
I don't know. I mean, there comes a point where we have to say, and I don't want to speak for Jackie,
Yeah.
this is what you have. We want
Right.
third and fourth grade, so what is it gonna take for
Yeah.
us to get there? You know what I mean? I mean, that's not we haven't had that
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, and I'm not trying to,
No,
I just
no,
thought I'd
well-
bring it up as, you know.
But
that's really-
everybody wants more people.
Yeah.
For
You know what I
sure.
mean? I mean, that's
Oh,
just
yeah,
nature.
I know,
Yeah.
right, because you're like, well, you're gonna bring them to the numbers where we were, so you would think
Right.
you would
No,
be
that's a
able to
good
have
call,
third
Linda,
and
yeah.
fourth, because actually
Yeah,
you're giving
that's
them
where we had
one
it.
more person.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand there's probably more students taking music, but that's at the older levels.
Well,
So
yeah.
you would think that that would bring you back to where you were, make this work, this is your numbers, but
On the other hand, our,
sustainability is a big
Sorry.
thing. Because we know we have to cover the music department, that becomes big, that's hard.
so the enrollment growth is higher in the
The enrollment's
elementary, in the
legit.
elementary levels. The
Yep.
enrollment's
That's true, too.
grown, so.
Yep. This is one of those
More
programs that when you look at the numbers don't lie, they're real. And you know, again, it goes back to, but why are we favoring music over this or this?
Yeah.
I'm not saying us, I'm saying the conversation.
Right, it's like doing your due diligence of really looking into what other programs do we find important
Yeah.
to put in and have, rather than, I think we do place an importance on music. We have grown it over the past however many years we have been building back up.
Yeah.
Right, we've been adding back. But I think we have to also do our due diligence of looking at
And also at one instead of two,
everything.
you know.
And I
Right.
think it's important to keep in the back of our mind,
Yeah,
these title grants and what could be happening there.
right.
Well, and when you think of what we've added over the last 5 years, that eat into your ability to just add. So we've got more mental health staff than we've ever had.
Right.
You know, is that forever? Or is that going to, you know, pinnacle and then decrease? We've got 4 school resource officers,
Right.
which right now, I can't imagine anything more important. I think people feel the same way. So we've added staff that crowds out your ability to just keep adding. So if this is one that we want to invest in, that's all I'm saying is, hey, if we want to, great. But we need to be clear on it's because we value it and want to grow the program and know that that might mean we can't add elsewhere.
And Lynn, to your point, you know, for instance, Title I for reading, 7 or 8 literacy people are underneath that.
I know.
25% reduction to Title I, you've got to find
Right.
2 positions in the general fund to move title monies over for literacy.
And
Yeah,
so-
our mass support, our grant.
Mass for, yeah, so just, I wish we knew an answer to that part, but I think that's the Jason point, like that's a pretty big unknown and it doesn't, I don't think we're gonna get more federal aid in the same.
No,
So,
no, I think that we need to.
So we can come back to this and I will meet
Yeah, I
with
always
Jackie.
forget what decisions we have to make on all of these things right now.
The decision is really either, and we'll get to that with the
Oh,
recommendation,
okay.
but it's, the thing to remember, we want the budget to be spelled out. Even though we know we're gonna have a surplus and there's gonna be some unassigned fund balance. You don't wanna go into it saying, well, don't worry, we'll just figure it out later and use surplus. Because from the budgeting standpoint, you know, we're assuming there's gonna be surplus, you wanna have it locked down. So we'd love to have this locked down by April 16th. Just so that we know when we go out to the public to say, this is what we're doing, these are the positions. And just as important, if we want to hire them, we got to hire them now.
And to say, okay, we're comfortable maybe with adding one position, how would that look?
It's an option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, where would they go, what if we wanted?
How about I meet with Jackie in department and say, okay, if you were to have 1 instead of 2.
Yeah, how would you?
What does that look like? What does that get us? And at least I can come back to
That
it.
feels a little more sustainable
All right.
or, you know,
That's what I'm.
Okay,
provable, yeah.
okay.
And then
Good
you
with that?
didn't, and you
Everybody
didn't
good with
get, to your point about going out to other department, you didn't get like everyone? You know, like the other,
We could add 15 positions right now easily. If we said that for coffee and the superintendent, tell us the positions you want. Well, we already did, you know,
Yeah.
we wanted. And I'm not blaming, I'm just saying, There's never enough people.
That's what you said to me early on.
There's just never enough. Until you don't have any, and then it's like, well, I guess we're gonna make do. All right, so this would be the total amount, but I didn't include, you'll see later on, we didn't include the 210. It's just not budgeted yet, but that would be, so for staffing, for 25, 26, we are only looking at potentially, well, 2 positions, budgeting for a third, whether we use it or not, and then if the 2 other music.
And that's a pretty good situation, because I know other districts around here have like retirees that they're not able to refill those positions. So I mean, we're able to add.
Yeah, this is.
So
And that's
this is
filling every retirement.
And, right.
Right, yeah,
So,
those
I
aren't even
mean,
on
we're-
here, right.
This is a good thing for us.
Those 2 music ones, if you add in the budget, you take it out of the health insurance, how much of that health insurance, we're talking in the strategic meeting?
Well, 210 times, what's there, I mean, however many years you.
Yeah,
About 2 or 3 people, right? You talk about the spending from her.
yeah, but you get the over, what's called surplus health insurance every year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, that's different, yeah.
Yeah, I think these
Yeah.
210 could fit into that
Yeah.
number from a
Yeah.
budgeting
Yeah,
standpoint.
savings.
Without even changing the line here.
Right. Right.
Taking out of the health insurance capital expenditure number that we project. Put 210 as two new music teachers, and I still think we'll still be in a surplus position if you do it out the 4 or 5 years. Something to think about, rather than adding 210 more, and then you have to add 210 on top side, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
You're just meshing this, keeping the 72 or $76 million budget.
Well, any money we save in, let's say, in any money we save in health insurance, to your point, allows us to reallocate some of that elsewhere and still save. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying,
Yeah.
in this budget right now, when you have the
Yeah.
76 and 76.
Yeah.
In our health insurance, we're going up 7%, right? We know, you think,
Yeah.
it's probably already we're gonna be under budget, right? I'm saying, take 210 out of that number, so instead of going up 7%, we're going up 6.5%.
Yeah.
That 210 goes into, reallocated into an expenditure line of 2 teachers.
Yep.
And it's in the budget.
Yep.
Already now. It's something.
There's no doubt.
It's in there.
Yeah.
The monies are in.
The monies are in there, it's just where, we add it in there as a 5 head
We're
count? or
projecting,
3
we're
head
gonna
count?
expend it.
So,
This, and I apologize, I probably had this out of order. That's the Maine Memorial enrollment that I just want, that's what we're addressing. So,
Yeah.
so they're still higher, and this will take care of that. For work-based learning, some small increases. So Pen and Pixel is the company that we use. They are doing a lot of our graphics for our athletic department. Tim also took on an internship this year, an intern who he's working with. And he presented a proposal to Kevin to expand that to allow for, I want to say up to 5 students to be working with him, learning graphic design. Like not just watching how he does it, to actually be doing it and getting, there's like a certification you can get, I forget what it's called, but it's like a graphic design micro credential. This would allow us to do that, and he's willing to do that. So for us, another cool experience for
Yeah,
kids.
that's awesome.
For a very small increase, we felt. Also, and the $10,000 may not be a true cost. So we met with Broome County Emergency Services, and they are in dire need for people to become EMTs. So we are going to partner with them. They are going to provide an instructor, and we're going to have a cohort of students who are going to take the class for a year. Broome County will pay their salaries and provide some materials and supplies, and we will have students by, I think, May or June of the year be able to be certified EMTs.
Do they have to be 18 for that, or is there a?
Yeah, they have to be in their senior year, then I think what it is, they get licensed when they turn 18.
Yeah.
But they can be in the program, you know what I mean, prior to.
It's for your national exam, you have to be 18, but to be
Yeah.
a New York State certified EMT, you can be 17.
17,
great.
okay. Let's get that.
So we think that's just another great add-on. The 10,000 is just for any incidentals that we haven't, but Broome County said they would plan on providing, it's benefiting them.
Are these
Aren't a
things that
lot
are
of
done
local-
here on campus?
Yeah.
Where is the space for that?
That'll be classroom. Yeah, it's just a classroom.
And then they'll also be getting paid the students themselves would be getting paid, they're just saying, or who's, they're paying who's.
No, no, no,
the
so
trainer?
the instructor,
Got it.
yes,
You were
yes.
like, we're
Yeah.
getting the kids.
Well, I mean, good job.
Yeah, no, the instructors would be paid through, again,
A good portion of EMTs in this area are volunteers, right? They all
Some
pay.
of
They used to be,
Yeah,
now
EMTs
it's
are
very
paid.
hard for EMTs to be volunteers.
Yeah.
A lot of the ambulance companies are trying to get paid EMTs.
I had a friend.
Mayor.
yeah.
That's,
For professional development, you had mentioned, Lynn, you mentioned summer work. So we do a lot of our summer work through BOCES. We use COSER, so that allows us to generate 8 on it. And then, like Cynthia said, we put the other in the lines. This will be our 3rd year of PLC at work, so it's a 3-year contract, so this is the 3rd year. And then administrative days for collaboration, those are time when we have the departments pulled out and have them do work within the day. We pay for subs through that money. So again, those numbers really haven't changed. The only thing that'll change for 26, 27 is we will not have the PLC expense because we'll finish the 3rd year.
Is there any support with PLC? I mean, it's in the 4th year?
Like
Yeah.
ongoing.
Is there like a follow-up or?
Well, I believe it's coming. The model was for 3 years. And in the development of it, they now feel like it really needs to be 5. It's a lot to do in 3, which is self-serving. It's
I
2
was
more
gonna say,
years.
they're really
However,
neat.
that's interesting. However, it makes sense.
I mean, I will probably ask for support with the person that comes out to us, Brian Stack. He's been phenomenal with us, and so rather than doing a full blown something like
Yeah.
that, we would probably ask for him to come visit.
I just pay like a consulting fee or something.
Yeah, I just spoke with.
collaboration model goes on forever though, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
100%. Yeah. 100%. All right, and then the last new item, we're expanding our enrichment activities and requests in the 2 elementary schools. So that's just to help pay for, anything, whether it's stipends, materials and supplies, snacks. WASED, so we met with Jim Klubeck. The high school and middle school are looking. We want him to come out and demo a few modules that we're looking at. I'll share that with you. That is a placeholder number that we felt based on Jim's cost was realistic, and it's all through BOCES. So if we go through WASED, even if we buy it through BOCES, we're getting back a significant amount the following year in aid. What would that be, from 74%?
I mean, if it's fully aided, 82, 3%.
Okay.
Materials and supplies, yeah.
If fully, I mean, none of their salaries wouldn't be aided, so I don't know if there's something that's not aidable within that.
It's materials, it's like kits.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff, materials. And then Mark has some new courses that he would like to add, and really that 15,000 would just be for any summer work that's needed to get some training. Sometimes APs that require some curriculum work. So
we have 2, right, in the high school art teachers for our art program, so adding these 3 advanced art courses, we're okay faculty wise?
Yeah,
That-
so,
okay.
yeah, we have a unique model we're gonna use to implement it. Kind of the closest thing to compare to be like, almost like these kids are gonna take these AP courses, kind of like an independent study fashion, where they're gonna be mentored by the art teachers over a 2 to 3 year time span and be working with the art teachers. So it's not necessarily like a period in their day.
Yeah, okay.
There's probably not that many kids that are gonna.
Yeah, no, we're talking about like
These are pretty
5, 10 kids.
Yeah.
In order to get AP credit, you gotta be a really, really serious art
I was
student.
thinking.
Really like portfolio driven.
Right.
almost. You
Yeah.
know, they got a Portfolio for.
But for our top end art students, it's gonna be
That's
great
amazing.
that we have this available, because when they're applying to, top end art schools,
To have the portfolio.
these are gonna be huge differentiator in getting them accepted into.
Oh, so then our tax levy, right now, and you'll see our recommendations, it's 2.09. That's just a historical chart that we've utilized over the last several years. And we have never gone above, we've always stayed at or gone below. That is currently 2.09, and I know annually we have the discussion of whether or not we want to go out at or below. That's a conversation we need to have. Wasn't sure if you wanted to have that conversation tonight or where we feel we are. We have historically over the last couple of years, so. I do have some data because you guys had asked for some scenarios. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we can, if you want to wait.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so just these are draft recommendations. This is an annual, it's a recommendation to you from us. Number one, adopt that spending plan. That's the current spending plan. That's the dollar total and again, the rationale. Approve those enhancements. Again, that does not include the 2 instructional positions in music. It only includes the 2 and then the 1 unknown. Again, we will always have this recommendation. We believe it's fiscally prudent to have reserves on hand and to replenish as necessary. We believe we should always try and stay at that 4% if we can, which we have. We are requesting the tax levy of 2.09. Now, Greg and Mike and Jeff and I and Lynn and our Strategic Fiscal Oversight Committee, we ran some scenarios. Actually, Cynthia ran those for us because we had said, what would it look like if we went out for less than 2.09? Those are what the scenarios look like.
So do we want to have the discussion of if we want to go out of the
Yeah, we
2.09?
probably should. I mean, we are recommending, that's our recommendation, but those are what the other scenarios would look like.
I am in agreement with your
Susan.
recommendation.
I am as well.
I think 1.5 is okay. It doesn't change the needle too much. That's my opinion. But these are using very conservative numbers, 1% going out. So I'm okay, but if I'm outvoted, it's fine. 2.09 is fine, but I think 1.5 is not a big deal, in my opinion.
Thanks, Mike.
What do you think, Greg?
I think I'm okay with 152, only based on the fact that the foundation aid came in a lot higher than we thought it was gonna come in this year. But that also tells me that we're probably not gonna get that again.
No one's gonna be found.
And we don't know what's coming in and we almost sure it's gonna be lower.
Yeah, but we're forecasting 1%. That's the very, very, very conservative. It's not.
We've usually done 2%, right?
Yeah, and this amount
there.
of 1, right.
After they restored foundation aid, that is, because before that it was still 2%, but
The reason why I think we're saying 1.5 is our reserves are very flush.
they are.
Our 25 to 26 budget has, let's call it, potential surplus built into that
Yeah.
number already.
Yeah.
At a conservative level, so it could be more.
Yeah.
So
1.5 to 2.09, I mean, how much are you saving a taxpayer, like approximately? I mean, you're.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot there for that.
Yeah.
Well, like per house, I mean, you're talking maybe
Oh, I have no idea.
$10, $15 a tax bill.
Right,
yeah, I don't think it's more. I don't think it's
but in
more
the
about
big
that.
picture, that's
It's the
big for us.
It's
the
the
number.
opposite. It's the
Yeah.
optics. It's the perception that hey, we can go at 209, but hey, we're going at 105. It shows the taxpayers that
But you could go higher.
We could go up,
we could.
we never
Yeah,
have
but-
asked
And
that.
you guys, this is a tricky year. I firmly believe. we
You
should-
guys said that 2 years ago we went out 0%, and we're even a higher. So it's like
Yeah, but we don't.
But we have done, right,
We
we've
went-
done that in the past, and
Yes,
we have, and we're showing a value in our programs and education, and so you're asking a $10 savings for an individual, for a household. And
it's not
then
10.
in $10 to $15, let's just say. So then in the big picture, that's a big,
I'm just
How
saying,
big
looking
is
at
it?
the surplus from a strategic standpoint, we have, it's harder to find
more places to put surplus monies into reserves for Jeff and his teams. Every year when you have
Yeah,
surplus,
yeah, I understand.
surplus, and you're capped at 4% most of the time on the one reserve, it gets tougher.
Yeah.
Just that's what
I mean,
our meeting,
right, I mean-
strategic meeting was.
Yeah.
But
Right.
And here's another thing I would say, having gone through the goods and the bads,
Right.
when you are going through the bads and you sit there and say, man, we gave up $200,000 that year and we gave up 300 the year before.
Yep.
And you look at that and you're like, boy, I wish we didn't do that. But I get it, it's hard to sit there and say, we're doing well.
Well,
You
the
know?
issue too is that gap, and I've seen this in lean years, right? Where we start looking at, boy, if we didn't have that gap back then, that gap compounds over the years, right?
Oh,
Because
absolutely. You never get it back.
Your budget is based on percentage of prior year's budget, so
Yeah,
of course.
I just know that, like I said, I know
Right,
it's.
then we look at that compounding and it's like, oh, well, we wouldn't have a deficit now if we had
We usually have those roller coasters.
we didn't do that 4 years ago, we wouldn't have this big a deficit now,
Yeah.
even though it's only
And then,
100,000.
and then going at a lower tax levy this year affects,
Affects
The
everything.
year.
it affects everything.
right, but it affects your tax levy of what that tax levy amount could be for next year. It's gonna be lower. It's not gonna be, so it's a
That's what I'm saying,
Compound,
it just compounds.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know if we just go around and keep this in the,
It would be helpful
an
if we knew
official, so we
tonight,
know
Yeah.
what to,
please.
alright, so, I mean, Mike, you're,
Yeah, I support a 1.5 levy for the
Okay.
budget.
Greg,
I generally don't, but I think that after 3 years in a row now, that, we could put a lot of money in reserves, I'm okay with the 1.5.
right, I support, the recommendation of the 2.09.
I also support the recommendation.
So do I.
Thank you. Last item, we've done this
Or your
annually.
decision.
We're happy to make it for you, Brett.
So remember, we're buying two more than, not two more we need, we're buying two more because strategy-wise, if and when we go zero emission, we can't buy diesel after 2027.
Right.
So, that is the recommendation.
That goes on the vote,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it's separate.
Separate proposition.
Yep.
Questions?
all right.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. That concludes, I'm gonna mute this and turn off the recording. That concludes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.